Roughly 20 years ago, Hyundai went to expand their SUV portfolio with the introduction of the subcompact Tucson all the way back in 2004. Now, at the time, this vehicle was designed to go head-to-head with other subcompact rivals like the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. And back in 2021, we saw the company introduce their biggest and boldest Tucson ever, moving it to its 4th generation. Now, for 2025, it's time for Hyundai to give the Tucson its first round of big updates. And as you can see, it gets updated styling in the front, new wheel designs, and a brand new interior with a massive dual 12.3-inch display. So as you can see, this week, the company has loaned us the creme de la crop for trim levels. This is a 2025 Tucson Limited with the hybrid powertrain, which means we have a turbocharged and electrified engine under the hood, delivering up to 231 horsepower and getting up to 35 mpg. So for those of you who are looking for a really comfortable family vehicle that perfectly blends power, efficiency, and technology, has Hyundai managed to make enough changes to the Tucson to keep this model fresh? Stay tuned to find out. Now, even though the current generation Tucson has only been on the market for about 2 to 3 years now, I'm really surprised to see Hyundai is already giving it quite an extensive overhaul. Before we start talking about the exterior styling changes, I thought I'd pop the hood, however, and remind you guys what makes the Tucson Hybrid the preferred choice if you're checking out this vehicle. Now, as you can see underneath the hood, this is the company's SmartStream 1.6-liter gasoline direct injection turbocharged 4-cylinder augmented by a 64 horsepower electric motor that's kind of sandwiched between the engine and the 6-speed automatic transmission. The power output figures have actually changed a little bit this year. They've gone up by about 5 horsepower and 13 pound-feet of torque, now delivering up to 231 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque. Now, that increase in power basically comes courtesy of a more powerful electric motor. The electric motor now delivers 64 horsepower versus 59 in the pre-refresh model. The gas engine on its own delivers around 178 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. The electric motor also delivers around 195 pound-feet of torque as well. The interesting twist with this Hyundai powertrain is the fact that it uses a 6-speed automatic. Most competitors use an eCVT or a direct drive transmission. Hyundai went with a 6-speed auto and continue to use that because they want to go with a more traditional feel. Fuel economy for this model did drop a little bit compared to the pre-refresh model. It's rated at 35 in the city and 35 on the highway, 35 combined. That's a really easy number. That did, again, go down versus the 36, 37 mpg that you got in a 2024 version. The blue trim level, the base trim of this car, gets the best MPG at 38 mpg combined. This vehicle has a 13.7 gallon fuel tank. The EPA says you should be able to do roughly 450 miles of range on a full tank. That's on regular gas. Now, H-Track all-wheel drive, a mechanical all-wheel drive system, is standard on every hybrid version of the Tucson, so it's quite different versus the hybrid all-wheel drive system on the RAV4, which has a separate rear electric motor to give you power to the rear axle. And Hyundai doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time. We'll test it out when we get this vehicle on the road. It has a top speed of around 120 miles an hour. Towing capacity is the same as the gas-only version at 2,000 pounds. And as this car sits, it weighs in at just over 3,900 pounds. It's around 200 to 300 pounds heavier versus a non-hybrid version of the Tucson. Keep in mind as well, there is a plug-in hybrid version of this powertrain that basically ups the range, the electric-only range, to around 33, and it gives you around 268 horsepower, but I'll save that for a different review. Closing the heavy hood, which as you guys saw was supported by a prop rod as opposed to struts, you can see the exterior styling of the Tucson did go with an evolutionary change this year. Again, this is a heavy refresh, and unless you have this model parked next to the pre-refresh Tucson, you're probably not going to notice too many changes. First of all, this color is called Titan Gray Metallic. It's a free color, or I'm sorry, it's a $425 upcharge, I believe, for this color. You can see it has some metallic fleck in it. I apologize, it's a little bit dirty. We just got hit with a small little rainstorm. And you can see the front end got a slight update here. So the grille, the Cascade waterfall style grille, does look like it's been widened this year. It has that interesting design twist where, as you can see, there are elements of the grille which are actually made up for the LED daytime running lights and the LED turn signals, although it blends perfectly into those little, I guess, portions of the grille when the headlights are not on or when the daytime running lights are not on. I really like the also blacked out Hyundai logo there with the integrated camera, integrated parking sensors. The headlights also look as if they've been widened a little bit. You have the projector style full LEDs with the LED low and high beam. Those vents to the side there are functional, which is actually kind of nice to see. And then you can see on the limited trim, you kind of have this almost like skid pad or skid skid plate like front end that looks like it gives this thing a tougher appearance. Now, as you guys saw, the engine also came on. That's because I've left it on the whole time. It will occasionally turn on to recharge that 1.5 kilowatt lithium ion battery pack. You can see you do have some active grille shutters down here. And then this vehicle has roughly 8.3 inches of ground clearance, which is an average amount. But overall, the exterior styling refresh is a small evolutionary change. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys like it or if you prefer the pre-refresh model. As you guys heard, the gas engine is quite noisy when it comes on. Now, moving around to the side profile, this generation Tucson experienced a huge growth spur when it first debuted back in 2022 at 182.7 inches in the overall length with a 108.1-inch wheelbase. This vehicle was roughly 6 inches longer than the pre-refresh model, and this also makes it one of the longest vehicles in the segment. It definitely has an interesting design, of course, with those intersecting lines in the side profile that kind of give it some interesting textures. You can see the wheels. These are the wheels that you get on the limited trim. They're a directional spoke design with a two-tone finish to them with a machine and a gray inner painted pocket. You have a 12.6-inch rotor at the front, a slightly smaller 11.9-inch rotor at the rear, riding on a 235 by 55 R19 Michelin all-season tire. No adaptive dampers. Like I said, 8.3 inches of ground clearance. There's also unpainted cladding area here along the side and along the rocker panel, which again gives it that tougher SUV look. And then the side mirrors, you can see they are power folding. They have integrated turn signals. They also have a nice 360 camera included. There's some chrome along the belt line. And then this trim, if you guys go basically for an SEL and up trim, you'll get a panoramic sunroof, which also opens up to vent air, which is nice. So again, those are features that you may not be able to find in something like the Honda CR-V. Now, moving around from this angle here, you can see this is where you can tell it's basically just an evolutionary refresh because the silhouette hasn't really changed. There are some interesting textures here, like this little aluminum blade that you find on the D-pillar. The rear spoiler here is nice, and there's also a nicely integrated rear wiper hidden underneath the spoiler. This was one of the first Hyundai vehicles to kind of introduce their badge behind the glass, which is kind of interesting and strange looking. And then looking at the rear, you can see the taillights are a full LED design for the upper portion. As you can see, the turn signal is located down there in the bumper with an incandescent rear reverse light as well. So I would have liked to see full LED design. That's kind of an opportunity for Hyundai to have fixed that, but they did not. I really like this kind of crystally look of the actual taillight and the brake light assembly, which looks nice. There's a H-Track hybrid badge over here, although I don't love the way the hybrid badge looks. It's a little generic looking. And then you can see the rear bumper diffuser kind of has the tougher, like almost like unpainted silver skid plate look. The exhaust is kind of tucked underneath there. And then looking at the cargo area, this vehicle does come with a hands-free power liftgate on this top trim. And then looking at this cargo space, because the Tucson got that growth spur, this actually has one of the bigger cargo areas in the segment at just under 40 cubic feet with the back seats up. You can see no storage to the side. You do have an actual power outlet over here. It's a 12 volt. And if you look underneath here, you can see there's some nice underfloor storage. There's a tire mobility kit, so no spare tire like what you'd find in some competitors. If I pull this little latch there, you can see that does fold down the seat, and Hyundai says when you fold down the back seat, it expands the cargo to just under 75 cubic feet of space, which is more versus what you're going to find in a RAV4 and CX-50 hybrid, but a little bit less versus what you're going to find in the new CR-V hybrid. So the exterior styling changes were pretty subtle for 2025, but the inside is where Hyundai made some big changes that really improved this vehicle tremendously. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is Hyundai's latest egg-shaped key, which is definitely weird looking until you realize when you flip it on its side, it's actually the Hyundai logo, which is kind of cool, I guess. You can see it's got lots of buttons here for lock, unlock, although it's already kind of peeling off there, remote start, and then a panic function. This vehicle also comes equipped with their power liftgate function and their remote smart park feature. So when I turn the vehicle on, you can basically stand by the car, you have to stand close to it, and you can move it forward a few feet to get out of a really tight parking spot. And then of course, Hyundai offers their latest version of their digital key 2, where if you're an owner of the vehicle, you can use your smartphone to basically start the vehicle up, and you can also access it through their smartphone app. Now, as I approach the door handle here, you can see, touch that little area there, that locks the door for you. And as you can see, I mentioned earlier this vehicle had power folding mirrors. I was wrong. As you can see, it does not. Touch the back of the door handle, it will unlock the door for you. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, you can see the interior. If you guys have seen the inside of like the new Hyundai Kona, for example, this is going to look very familiar. You can see the limited trim comes with real leather as opposed to the H-Techs. This is basically their lighter gray leather material. The seats are perforated because they're heated and ventilated, and they adjust in 8 different ways for the driver and passenger. You also get 2-way lumbar here for the passenger, along with 2-person memory seats. This trim level is the only trim to get To get the memory seats and the cooled function, all the other trims will have either a cloth or a leatherette with a heated function. You can see this interior also has kind of like a gray accent, a gray-green accent. You can see in the sunlight, this little area here actually is kind of like an interesting green tone to it. This upper portion is soft touch injection molded plastic. This is also soft with faux stitching. There's also this really interesting textured fabric here, which is kind of nice. This is all hard touch here, nice and padded where you'd rest your elbow here. And then the window controls, only the front windows are one touch up down. The rears are not one touch at all. I would have liked to see Hyundai just make it one touch for all four. Piano black here, hard touch plastic here, and then this vehicle also comes standard with the Bose premium audio, which sounds decent. If you guys are an audiophile, I highly recommend it, going for the upper trims to get that feature. Now, stepping inside, with its 8.3 inches of ground clearance, the new Tucson has a really easy step-in height. As I shut the door, the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. This is built off of their latest, I believe it's called N3 architecture. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see start stop button is right here on the dash. Push the button here, you can see there's no traditional starter noise, and that's because this is a full hybrid. And as you can also see, the tech in this car just got a big upgrade. All models now come with the 12.3-inch fully digital center screen there with their latest CNCC software, which now includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Sadly, I'm using my phone to film. It doesn't play very nicely when my phone is trying to film with the audio, so it's not actually connected. I disconnected it. But the fact that it has wireless CarPlay is standard, even on the big screen here, is a plus, because the old Tucson, if you got the bigger 10-inch display, it would have a wired connection CarPlay. The older, smaller 8-inch display did have wireless. If you guys go for an SEL trim and up, you also get the fully digital instrument cluster here. So it's dual 12.3-inch displays, which is nice. And then you can see the limited includes their blind view cameras, where if you signal left or right, it shows you exactly what's in your blind spot. The steering wheel, as you can see, went from that 4-spoke design to their newer 3-spoke design with this kind of interesting Morse code here with the 4 dots. That basically is 4 dots for the H logo in Morse code, which is kind of nice. You can see the steering wheel offers a manual tilt telescoping adjustment with a good amount of adjustability and range. This car also comes with their highway driving assist 2, which is what that camera is there to look at your face to make sure you're asleep. You're awake and paying attention while you're driving. You do have paddles on the wheel to control the 6-speed auto. You can also adjust the way that center display looks there. You can put different sources. You can also go through your trip computer, different displays and stuff. So that all looks pretty nice. I think the graphics and resolution also looks good. The horn, it sounds pretty nondescript, but at least it doesn't sound puny like some competitors you may find in the segment. There's a heads-up display, a 12-inch heads-up display on this trim, and then this upper portion has the same soft touch injection molded plastic with the faux stitching from this portion here. This is also, again, that green color, if you can tell. There's a new shelf here for the passenger side, which is nice to put like a few smartphones, some loose chains, or some keys. And then you can see with the screen having a different orientation. Remember, the old one had 2 separate screens. They had to move the dash fence to be lower because the screen now sits on top of it. I also really love the fact that Hyundai gives me back some actual physical controls. The old Tucson had a lot of touch sensitive controls, even for like the volume. Now you can see there's an actual dedicated volume knob. There's a tuning knob here, traditional hard buttons, and then you can see the climate panel. You've got your dual zone automatic climate control. There is a touch sensitive panel here. You can see that's where you access the heated and cooled seats, which actually work really well. The cooled function works well. You have your heated steering wheel here as well, with 2 different levels of heat and cooling. And then you can see here going to the hybrid display. This is where you can access a couple of useful pages where you can see your fuel economy. You can see where the power is going, obviously. I wish I could connect my phone to show you that, but it does take up the entire screen, which is also very nice. If you look at our Instagram, you can see a photo of that. This vehicle also comes with their Hyundai Pace feature, where you can basically use your car almost like the way your credit card is used, where you kind of stand near a reader and it'll actually be able to pay for things. I've never actually been able to try it. It's very popular in Korea. I think it's still kind of making its way here in the US. This vehicle also has embedded GPS, which the GPS function works fine. It's not super fantastic, obviously, but it also is relatively quick and snappy. It's not like what you're going to find in some of the luxury vehicles, or even Genesis, I think, has a better system, obviously, but this is still very good. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full top-down 360 camera with a full 360 perimeter scan, where I can literally do a scan around the vehicle. This is very impressive technology, and it's definitely one of the better backup cameras you're going to find in the system. So as you can see here, Hyundai's latest infotainment software is among the best in the industry. I love the fact that it's 12.3 inches. This is among the biggest screens in the class as well. So if you guys like tech, you're going to love the fact that Hyundai basically gave you all the screens, and they also gave you some hard physical buttons back and knobs which is one of my bigger complaints for the old model. You'll also notice the gear selector moved from over here in the center console to here. It's kind of similar to the Ioniq 6 and Ioniq 5, where I twist this way to go to reverse, kick it forward to go to drive, push the end of the stalk here to go into park. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it freed up a lot of center console space. And that's great because you have a deep storage area here. You have your 2 USB charging ports here, which is nice. And then you can see there's a couple of buttons here for the 360 camera. Your drive mode selector is here. There's 4 different drive modes in Eco, which is the default, Sport, My Drive, and then Snow. We'll try out the different drive modes later on. The wireless phone charging pad also has been redesigned, where I like how there's this little ridge portion here to elevate the phone to help it keep cooler when it's charging. It's also a quicker wireless charger. You have decent cup holders here, nice padded center console. Open that up, it's actually pretty deep. It actually allows me to put most of my camera gear in there, which is great, in addition to additional storage over here. I mentioned earlier, these seats are pretty comfortable and supportive. I did complain in the first review of the Tucson when this first came out that this portion kind of dug into my back. I didn't notice it quite as much in this new 2025 model. So again, I always tell people, try the seats out for yourselves, see if you like them. I do find the seats to be nice and plush. They're comfortable. They don't really hold you in place for aggressive driving, but they're good for longer drives. I took this thing on a 2-hour road trip and it was perfectly comfortable. The glove box you can see is damped and not lined with felt. It's a bin style. It's a pretty decent size. You have an auto dimming rearview mirror here. No digital camera mirror like some competitors. You have a woven material on the headliner. You have LED map lighting, and you also have interchangeable ambient lighting in this vehicle, where you can change it between, I believe, 64 different colors, and it definitely looks pretty cool. It glows in strategic areas of the dash, and it makes it feel a lot more upscale versus some of its rivals, so I appreciate that. Above me, you can see big panoramic glass roof, which also opens up to vent air only over the two fronts, or the front seat area. You can see that's the largest that it opens. It basically gives you a tilt function as well, along with that retractable shade, which is nice if you guys don't want the sun basically beating on you. So again, that's a great feature to have, and it's standard on most of the versions of the hybrid. So overall, the interior got some nice upgrades in technology. Material quality is great, visibility is good, space is good, seats are comfortable. So this is definitely one of my favorite interiors in this segment, especially if you guys are looking for a lot of space and a lot of tech. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys what that space is like. Now, getting back here, you can see, obviously this can seat 3 people across. Material quality back here is hard touch plastic. So they did downgrade it versus the front seat area. It is not even soft here. It has more of that fake stitching, but this is all cheap plastic. Thankfully, it is padded right here where you'd rest your elbow, more of that cloth material here. The Limited is the only trim to give you 3-level heated rear seats, which is nice. Again, window controls are not one touch up down for the rear. I would have liked to see Hyundai do that. You can see this seat also gives you the ability to fold it down, which kind of creates almost a flat load floor. I believe the battery pack lives underneath this seat over here. You can see the seats themselves also give you the ability to recline by pulling on that lever. And then once you climb back here, you can see Hyundai actually says this vehicle has among class-leading legroom space at just over 41 inches. You can see that's where I'd have the seat to drive. There's just a ton of legroom and foot space to stretch my legs out, which is great. The floor is not completely flat here, however. You do have 2 USB-C charging ports and rear seat air vents, but not a third zone climate. You don't typically find that, although I think the Nissan Rogue offers that. And you also see no retractable sunshades. The Nissan Rogue offers that, but there's plenty of space for me to get back here and cross my legs, which I love. The vehicle itself is wider, so you could sit 3 people across. There's a nice little armrest here that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. I mentioned earlier you can recline the seats. This is actually the most that you can recline it. It actually gives you a ton of recline, so this is great if you guys want to have the ability to kind of allow your passengers back here to get a little bit more comfortable. The panoramic sunroof, you can see, comes all the way into the second row. That's really nice. And I forgot to show you guys, the headroom space is actually pretty good. I have a solid maybe 3 inches of additional headroom space, so that's pretty nice. If you guys are looking for a really generous back seat to basically put your family back here, taller people, car seats, the Tucson definitely will satisfy you in that regard. So here we are back behind the wheel of the current generation Hyundai Tucson. It's kind of crazy to think it's been about 3 years since I had one for a full week to test. I actually wasn't able to attend the first drive for this vehicle out in California. I actually had to send Rob back in August because I was out in Sweden for the Volvo XC90 reveal, the new version. But now that we're behind the wheel of the Tucson Hybrid, which is arguably the better powertrain option, there's also a plug-in hybrid, which I'm hoping Hyundai will send me for a full week as well at a later date. But this hybrid powertrain got a little bit of a power boost this year, about a 5 horsepower increase and a 13 pound-feet of torque jump. So now we're making 231 horsepower, 271 pound-feet of torque. It actually is the most powerful engine option in the hybrid segment, when you're comparing like a RAV4 hybrid, the CR-V hybrid, even the Sportage hybrid doesn't have as much power, although it'll likely get that for a refresh in 2026. But the last time I 0 to 60 tested one of these, I got 6.8 seconds, which is actually pretty darn quick, which is also a little bit quicker than the last CR-V hybrid that I tested. A Toyota RAV4 hybrid is also pretty similar. Let's go ahead and see what we can get in this 2025 model with the additional power, shall we? So it's in sport mode. We'll just basically floor it. Because of that 6-speed auto, it has a very conventional feel to it when you put your foot down. And we got 6.74 seconds there. That's actually very impressive. So this is actually the quickest accelerating hybrid that you're gonna find in this segment. This is faster, just barely, than a RAV4 hybrid, than a CR-V hybrid, and it's also quicker than the new Mazda CX-50 hybrid, which I also just recently tested. That's a great thing. And the other cool thing about the Tucson hybrid is it has a very conventional feel because of that 6-speed auto and that 1.6-liter gasoline turbo engine. Now, the downside with that conventional feel is this engine, this gas engine, does have some turbo lag. I noticed a little bit of turbo lag, and it also has a somewhat slow shifting 6-speed auto. I actually think this car would be much faster and smoother and more fuel efficient if Hyundai would just put in their intelligent variable transmission, their CVT, that you can find in some other vehicles like the naturally aspirated engine in the Hyundai Elantra. Again, Hyundai wanted to go with a more traditional feel, which I don't applaud, or I don't blame them for wanting to do, but I just feel like hybrid buyers don't really care about a CVT and the droning noises it may make because they just care more about the efficiency. But let's try another run here. .3 seconds there. That's with it more going slightly uphill. I also do appreciate the fact that this engine is noticeably quieter versus the engine in the RAV4 hybrid. And that's again because of this 1.6 liter and the fact that it has a stepped automatic. It's a turbo engine, but I just don't love the lag, the turbo lag that you get with this engine. Now, thankfully at lower speeds, you're gonna notice that the electric motor fills in those gaps when there is turbo lag, but there are times when I was driving this vehicle out on the highway, when I went to go put my foot down at higher speeds where the electric motor just runs out of steam because the electric motor only delivers around 64 horsepower on its own. It's most of the time going to run out of steam. You're relying on the 178 that you get from the gas engine most of the time, like maybe 95% of the time, whereas at low speeds, initially, the electric motor kind of fills in those gaps. Put my foot down here, I'm noticing the turbo lag, but then there is a nice surge from the electric motor that's helping it along. So that, in that sense, it feels fine, but again, this 6-speed auto should be honestly a CVT. It would be so much better if it was a CVT. And as a driving enthusiast, it's kind of surprising to hear myself say that, but let's be honest here. Most hybrid buyers don't care about a conventional shift, feel that you get with a traditional automatic. They just want instantaneous response. They want smoothness. They want a nice seamless transition between the gas engine and the electric side and vice versa. And that's where Toyota's hybrid system is just better in that regard. Same thing with Honda's hybrid system. Honda's hybrid system has that mechanical linkage and it also functions more like a direct drive transmission, but it actually gives you the quietness that this car also gives you because the engine's not super loud. Toyota's definitely has the loudest engine, but the Honda is also kind of in the same ballpark in terms of efficiency, which we'll talk about the fuel efficiency in just a moment. Now, this being a mechanical all-wheel drive system, it does give you a more sure-footed feel versus the Toyota hybrid system, where the Toyota's has kind of that a separate rear electric motor where it kind of can feel like a front-wheel drive biased powertrain because the gas engine is only feeding power to the front wheels. Not so the case with this car. You actually have a lock feature here where you can lock the system in a 50-50 torque split, which is nice, but that lock feature does reduce the fuel efficiency of this car, which again, we'll talk about in just a moment. I'm gonna try one more run here. This time, we're gonna brake torque it and see if it makes any kind of difference. We're still in sport mode, which doesn't make a difference. Put my foot down. Shifts at around 5,500 RPM. I like how there's a tack. In sport mode, there's a tack. 6.77 seconds there, so very consistent. You're gonna get the same time whether you brake torque it or whether you just floor it from a start, which most people are gonna do. Again, that is pretty impressive, and I think Hyundai's done a great job with refining this powertrain overall. Now, in terms of the chassis and the ride quality, the Tucson is definitely not a sportier driving SUV. This definitely leans more toward the comfort profile, which is fine because people who drive this are just looking for a comfortable cruiser. I've switched the drive mode into its eco setting, which is technically the default setting. You can also go into a my mode where you could customize the drive settings to your liking. You can tailor the steering and the engine response, the transmission response. Obviously, there's also a snow mode. In this mode, you can see the steering in this car is light, it's numb, it's devoid of feel. It's pretty comparable to the last RAV4 hybrid that I drove in terms of handling. It's got a soft, squishy suspension, but it's also not, you know, wallowy. It's not going to make you sick when you're driving around the road here. It's just comfortable, it's compliant, the structure feels good, it's quiet in here. The Tucson is definitely quieter versus the last RAV4 hybrid that I tested. Visibility is also good. I can see out of the front, the side, and the rear good, which is nice. Hyundai's Highway Driving Assist 2 is going to be standard on this limited trim. All models will come with their adaptive cruise control, so it'll have that full speed range capability. With the Highway Driving Assist, you also get the lane keep assist. It doesn't offer true hands-free driving. Most competitors in this segment don't, but it's definitely on par with the best you're going to find from Honda and from Toyota. The one thing this car is missing is the digital camera rearview mirror, which I would like to see that option, especially, you know, if you pack this thing up to the roof with people and stuff. But I also like, with this limited trim, you also get their blind view camera system. So if I signal right or signal left, it's going to basically show you what's in your blind spot in the actual, you know, instrument panel display over here, which is really nice. The seats are also really comfortable. They're plush. Actually, they're really soft, which I'm surprised by. The heated and ventilation function works well. This car also comes with a heated steering wheel, but for some reason, my particular test car, the heated steering wheel turns on for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then it shuts off automatically. So I think there's something wrong with it. I'll have to, you know, give that note to Hyundai later on to let them know that they need to have the heated steering wheel checked. But the heated and cooled function works well. And then in terms of fuel efficiency, that's the big question here with a hybrid. Now, this vehicle is rated at 35 combined, so that it actually is a little bit lower, about 3 mpg lower than the Kia Sportage, which also has this powertrain. It's around 2 mpg lower versus the pre-refresh version. Now, in my week's worth of testing in the city, I actually was able to get around 37 mpg in a lot of stop and go traffic. That's because the electric motor side can actually power this vehicle on EV power alone. It actually does a great job of just giving you full EV mode at very low speeds, at light throttle applications. On the highway, I've driven this vehicle for a week. I put about almost 200 miles on it. It was doing around 34 mpg in pure highway driving. So obviously hybrids tend to do better in city environment and stop and go traffic where the gas engine can spend most of the time off. With its 13.7 gallon fuel tank, I was doing around 440 miles of range on a full tank. So that's what I was actually getting in my real world testing, which isn't bad, but you are going to get about 100 miles more range in some of its rivals, and that's because they have bigger gas tanks. The Toyota RAV4 hybrid also does roughly around 3 mpg better versus this car in the same kind of conditions, so kind of keep that in mind. This has pretty much the same fuel efficiency as a Honda CR-V hybrid, although I do prefer driving dynamics of the CR-V hybrid more. This car also comes with better technology. It has features like ventilated seats, which you can't get in the CR-V. It has a panoramic sunroof. It has a bigger screen. So there's a lot to like about the Tucson refresh. And I have to say, compared to this, the CR-V, the RAV4 hybrid, and the CX-50 hybrid, this is definitely in the top 3 contenders. I just think that this car could be perfected if Hyundai would just swap out the 6-speed auto with a CVT. It would improve the efficiency and improve the acceleration even further. And that 1.6 turbo, it has some turbo lag in it. I don't love it. It's not a very fuel efficient engine on its own. But overall, I think the improvements that Hyundai has made have significantly made this car even better. It was already a great car, but now it's an even better car. So if you're looking for a hybrid family SUV, I can confidently say the new Tucson should make it to the top of your list. Just be sure you're okay with having slightly less fuel efficiency and a less smoother handoff between gas and electric versus some of its rivals. Now, with just under 210,000 units sold in America in 2023, the Hyundai Tucson was the brand's best-selling vehicle, which doesn't surprise me. This is a compact SUV that goes head-to-head with bestsellers like the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. Now, obviously, the original Tucson, when this first came out in 2021, I actually thought was a really competitive vehicle, but I'm really glad that Hyundai decided to refresh the vehicle relatively soon, because the interior is where you're going to see the biggest changes. I love the fact that all Tucsons now now come with that big 12.3-inch center display, which finally includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The upper trims, or really if you guys go for the SEL and up on the hybrid, you're also going to get the fully digital 12.3-inch instrument cluster, which just looks a lot more modern. It looks a lot more sophisticated. The hybrid powertrain also got a nice healthy boost in power. As you guys saw, it is the quickest accelerating vehicle in the segment at 6.7 seconds, although not really the quickest by a lot, just by about 0.1 to 0.5 seconds, depending on which competitors you're looking at. Fuel economy was also very competitive, although not the best, like what you're going to find in the RAV4. 34 mpg in highway driving, 37 in the city is still very competitive, although the fuel tank could be larger to improve the range to get it over that 500-mile mark. The back seat is also gigantic. The cargo area is also very spacious. The front seats are comfortable. There's a lot to like about this car. Unless you're looking for the sportiest driving vehicle in terms of handling, you're going to find that, of course, in the Mazda and the CR-V, or you're looking for the best fuel efficiency. But I think Hyundai has captured a really good middle ground. Again, this car's powertrain, I think, would become best in class if Hyundai would just dump that 6-speed automatic and replace it with a CVT. Again, it pains me to say that, but I think most people will find more usage out of the efficiency and the smoother response versus that stepped automatic. But again, if you guys are okay with that and you do want a more conventional feel, this new Tucson in the hybrid form is definitely the one you're going to want to choose. Now, if you guys are looking to purchase this vehicle, the gas model has been on sale for a while. The hybrid just went on sale basically toward the end of the summer. Same thing with the plug-in hybrid. And pricing for the updated Tucson starts at just under $29,000 for the base version with front-wheel drive and the gas engine. I would skip the gas engine entirely because the last time I drove one, it was just dreadfully slow, although, again, it is the more cheaper option. If you guys want the hybrid will cost you around $4,000 to $5,000 more. So at a base price for the blue at just under $34,000, it is kind of priced right in line with a CR-V hybrid, with the Mazda CX-50 hybrid. The Kia Sportage hybrid, this car's platform mate, is a good deal cheaper, but I do expect Kia to eventually refresh the Sportage and increase the price for that vehicle, perhaps for 2026. The RAV4 hybrid is the big bogey that Hyundai basically is targeting. That starts at around $31,700. So the Tucson is a little bit more expensive. Most of you are going to want to step it up to the SEL trim. That'll cost you another $2,000 to $3,000 extra, but it's going to get you the panoramic sunroof, the all-digital display. You also get the nicer leatherette H-Tech seats with the power driver's seat function. So I imagine most of you are going to spend that. If you guys want the N-Line, which is the sportiest looking version of the Tucson, that'll cost you around $38,000 to $39,000. Again, that gives you the Bose stereo and it gives you the unique body kit along with more body colored accents. I actually really like the N-Line's look. However, the Limited is what's going to give you all the bells and whistles, like the full 360 camera, the blind view camera system, the heated and cooled seats, of course, the memory function for the driver's seat, the power passenger seat. So all in, this model here with destination and the color upcharge comes to around $42,900. That is, again, a little bit more expensive versus its Kia Sportage rival, or I guess its platform mate. But if you're comparing it to the latest CR-V hybrid in the Sport Touring, this is about the same price. A RAV4 hybrid Limited is going to be around $1,000 to $2,000 more expensive, although it is going to give you the same kind of features. The CR-V, as you guys know, lacks the ventilated seats and the panoramic sunroof. So there's a lot to like about this new Tucson hybrid. The Mazda CX-50 hybrid also is around the same price, but the Mazda is lacking a heated steering wheel and a 360 camera and parking sensors, which you do get here in the Hyundai. So there's a lot of good choices out there, but I can comfortably say that this model should definitely make it to your short list. Just keep in mind, its powertrain may not be as smooth and refined as what you're going to find from some of its Japanese rivals, but if you guys are okay with that, this model here is definitely going to give you that enticing blend of power, efficiency, and technology. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid Limited. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.